So for Miss F, I know you guys said that you were struggling with the counter surfing, which we tried to work on a little bit, but then she didn't seem to care about my leave-its. Oh, sorry about the noise. I'm just going to move this over just a little bit so we have a little bit more space to practice some of the other skills. So for my little lady, I know you guys were also saying that you were struggling a bit with her jumping up and getting really exuberant, which is so typical for her age group. But of course, I completely understand we don't want her to, when she's most excited, do a lot of that contact. Because then, of course, the more she rehearses it, the better she gets at it. So what I sometimes like to practice is, as I'm entering the space with my dog, is if they're very excited about me, I go right into some find its. So I know that in the beginning, it seems like a lot of the behaviors go into some of the simpler tasks. Remember that if your puppy doesn't know what to do when they get overexcited or overwhelmed, it might be almost like using your ABCs in the beginning, where eventually you start to create words and sentences and eventually paragraphs. So if, let's say, Miss F is always very excitable and we go right into, okay, I noticed that you're having a hard time, go back to your bed, do a stay position, stay there for 10 minutes and ignore company. The problem with that dynamic is now your puppy probably can't handle it because the environment is way too stimulating, and that the puppy maybe hasn't worked the place behavior to the extent where they're very refined. So what I always tell my students is work movement behaviors when your puppy doesn't have the skill set to be successful in the other behavior. So right here, as she becomes softer because I'm making her body move to go grab a snack, as she approaches me, we get in the habit of she comes to approach, and then I'd rather have her do a sit, and I could feed her for the stationary. Then if she's doing a really nice job, I might then on purpose feed and apply some touching. So what I'm teaching her is that the softness is what gets you maybe the attention, but also that if we get too excited, we take a breather and we go back into a different skill. So again, I might do a find it. And this is where eventually all of these different little skill sets will come together and create full behavior sequences and other setups where she's more advanced and more comfortable. So now she comes into me, might get that little sit. So I know we had practiced this a little bit too with some of the other beauties, like trying to get them a little excited. So you add a little bit of movement. Then from there, I might go, ready, Faith, let's go. So she's like, I choked on my snack. And then from there, if she goes to jump, I ignore. If she chooses to sit, I might go yes, and then do a little find it. But remember, if you're still getting some of those previous behaviors, it could be too that at the end of her day, so notice how we're getting a lot of jumping. If she's really pooped out, you may be getting a little bit more of that wiggly type behavior. Remember too, it could be your puppy saying, gee, I'm having a hard time with something. So when in doubt, I try to add movement. So if, let's say, me being stationary and her being stationary equals all she wants to do is jump, I ignore. I start to meander around, or I give her something to do instead. The other option too is if you are going to be having company over, use her leash and her equipment or whatever you have available there to help her. So remember, your leash could be very much so, yes, like training wheels, where you're teaching your puppy what they can or can't do by actually allowing them to rehearse the behaviors. So again, with Miss F, I might go ahead and add a little bit of movement, get her a little excited. If, again, it equals excitement with jumping, I'm going to make sure that I'm not feeding for the excitement. So right here, if she chose to keep all four on the floor as I was escalating the excitement, then that's what I'm feeding. So remember that timing does also help. So if, let's say, your babe goes and jumps up on the counter and you said off, but you fed them for the off, your puppy might start to think that jumping up, putting feet on the counter, and then hopping off is what gave them the snack. So I would make sure that if you excuse me, say the off, I would then ask my puppy to do a different skill instead that I would prefer. So otherwise, your puppy might think almost like a touch behavior. We touch, we get fed, we touch, we get fed. So if the hopping up gives you a reinforcement, then she might start to think that hopping up might be what we're looking for. So I would make sure that for jumping up onto counters or to you is ignore or redirect to something you'd prefer. So again, as I'm meandering with the lovely lady, I might add some faster movement, get her a little excited, and then see from there if we can go into a sit. Yes. Then if she's doing a nice job, I might feed, add some touches, see if I can get her a little excited with some pats. What a good girl. She's like, that's weird, woman. And then from there, we might start walking again. She was like, that was like an assault woman. I don't know if I liked it as much. So if your puppy gets a little bit overwhelmed with some touch, you may find that that might be part of the problem. Is it's not necessarily excitement, but it could be that I'm a little overwhelmed. And now with these big emotions, I start to become exuberant. So that could also be more of a stress signal. Ready? Find it. Then I'm feeling cozy while this is all happening. Nice job, cuteness. So again, I might add a little bit more wiggles. Nice. And we'll go into that little sit. Gorgeous. Beautiful. So we'll just jackpot that little moment. Nice. So, but remember too that whatever she's rehearsing throughout the day, she's getting good at. So if you're really having a hard time with a behavior, think to yourselves, am I sometimes giving her more attention for the negative behavior than I am even giving her for the behaviors I prefer? So again, if she jumps, I just ignore. I might even walk away. Not as like, again, I don't love you or I don't enjoy you, but more so like you're not going to get stuff from me when sometimes you're either having a little bit of a moment. So now all 4 feet on the floor and I can feed for that. Nice job. So, but I would definitely practice some of these games where you get her in the rhythm of doing find its or movement behavior when she's having a hard time. So that way you're kind of helping her calm down. So what I might try again, I'm going to just drop some of my no items. We'll see if we can just do a little bit with these situations. So again, we might have her check it out. She could care less. Nice job. If she were to show interest in the item, I would just simply go leave it. So there's my item. So leave it. Yes, and feed for that. So, we dropped it. So I'd want her to find that there's value in disengaging or ignoring the thing. And of course, now she's just meandering through all the trash and could care less. If she happened to put it in her mouth, then it would go from a leave it to technically a drop it or give or out behavior. Nice, we'll just do a little find it. Gorgeous. Nice. And she does a very nice decision making right there to ignore the paper product and come check in. She's like, lady, I'm right here. Nice. So Miss F did beautiful with some of these exercises. We will be working more with those proper hellos. Oh my goodness, chewing. So we get that little sit. So I help her out. Gorgeous. Remember, if she's to the point where she's really both mentally and physically exhausted, don't forget to offer things you would rather. So if you know your puppy is struggling with something, don't let it happen to the point where they get to rehearse it and get good at it. So if I know that my puppy couldn't handle a situation, as opposed to giving it a try and then having them fail, I want them to start thinking that, okay, maybe instead of that original skill, we can do this instead and manage the setup. So we'll do a little find it, get her off and wiggling. I'll pop out this little item so she can chew on that bad boy instead. But she did a really great job. Ready? Here you go. So we'll do a little checkout with her item. I'll clean up our trash. But then as we practice, I'll definitely do some more of these scenarios. And all the beauties did practice a bit with the table. Not all of them, but because not everybody's working on the counter surfing right now. But I would recommend to give this a try at home with household no items, and then see if you can get them in the groove of disengaging from the thing and not even going to check it out. But then if, for example, they do happen to go near it or grab it, you can make it beneficial to do the exchange. But I'd say in general, she's really doing a gorgeous job. She is your typical youngster going into adolescence. So when in doubt, make sure her needs are being met. So she's having both mental and physical enrichment. She's also getting enough rest. So just like I mentioned for Mr. H, again, between 18 to 20 hours of sleep within that 24-hour window, really crucial for retention, but also for changing of behavior and learning new skills. So, but she did awesome. So we'll work some more of this next week too. Or sorry, not next week, but on Thursday.